Welcome to the 244 review. Of course, with the events of this chapter being quite interesting, I'm going to be breaking them down and analyzing them a little bit in sequence. But with that being said, my bad for not having a 244 spoiler video up because, well, it got taken down. So this is a good opportunity to plug in my second channel in the event that anything happens to this one, because most likely something's going to happen to this one. Link will be in the description down below. And now, let's get into this video. So we unexpectedly come back to Yuji and Higuruma facing down Sukuna. And I genuinely believed that we were still going to be at Yuta and Kenjaku with this chapter, but the perspective shift absolutely confirms that something insane is going on over there. If the conflict with Kenjaku were to simply end there, then I think we wouldn't be on a cliffhanger at all. So the next time we do go over there, Yuta will be waking up in a classroom. Something else I want to talk about is how focused these characters seem to be. Yuji and Higuruma really look like they're in the zone. It's just a very tough and cool looking page overall. With that said, we cut to the next page and it's revealed by Kusakabe that having Takaba fight Kenjaku and then having Yuta deal the final blow was their entire plan all along. So knowing what we know, after 240 chapters, do you really believe that Kenjaku's just done here? When has any plan in this series gone perfectly for our cast? And something else to point out here is that Yuta is supposed to head back quickly to the battle against Sukuna. So Kenjaku could seem to be dead and Yuta could have left right after, just for Kenjaku to have never really died in the first place. Who knows though, right? We don't see them, we don't know what's going on, so all we can do is guess. It's said that they need to decide who exactly is going out to fight Sukuna in the event that Gojo loses, and as we know, Kashima was the first to volunteer. But he also says that everybody is obviously going to be fighting against Sukuna, and Kusakabe, being as rational as he is, says not exactly everybody. There's no point in throwing out people who will be instantly killed when fighting Sukuna. For example, Miwa. It's even revealed that Miwa can't use her katana anymore due to the events in Shibuya, and thus she'd be an incompetent fighter like she already wasn't. So there's no point in sending her out. That's like sending me or you guys out. With that being said, I'll throw out my guesses as to who's on the battlefield. Yuji, Higuruma, Maki, Hakari, Choso, Kiara, and Shoko and Mei on the sidelines. Nobody else is useful here. Kusakabe then goes on to explain that the merge with Tengen and all the people in Japan is negatable if you are a sorcerer, because if Kenjaku and Sukuna win with this massive monster that destroys the entire world, doesn't necessarily mean that they can't survive in that world somehow. And it makes sense, honestly. Many people were able to live normal lives in the Heian era from what we've seen. They just had to abide by Sukuna's rules whenever he was present. And the same thing could happen here too. Sukuna and Kenjaku necessarily weren't chasing people down to kill them for no reason or anything like that in the Heian era. In the modern era in general, it's just more peaceful. So I see what Kusakabe is saying here. Kusakabe then points out that if you are a player in the calling game, Kenjaku will kill you if he survives. And the characters that are on Kenjaku's hit list apparently are Yuji, Yuta, Hakari, Panda, Hana, Miwa, Higuruma, and Momo. And this allows me to question where exactly Charles is though, because the last time we saw him, it seemed as if he joined the sorcerers, but maybe not. Anyways, this detail is pretty relevant because it explains why Yuta was the one to kill Kenjaku, because Yuta doesn't play when it comes to his friends, so he's not letting any of them get killed by him. And two, because of Kamo dropping out and saying that he's running away, but we'll get to that in a bit. Kusakabe does say that they can live for several days if Kenjaku survives, and if only Sukuna's left, they'll be able to survive much longer. I'm gonna be straight up. Kenjaku may just be more of a threat to humanity than Sukuna is. I genuinely believe it. Sukuna just isn't actively threatening it like Kenjaku is, and that's why Kusakabe says that they'll live longer in the event that Sukuna survives instead of Kenjaku. Jujutsu Kaisen is very interesting in this way, that it has two major antagonists and how their motives differ and how it compares the two. It's cool, I haven't seen any series like this. We move a little past this and Kamo says that he's dropping out to protect his family. Kusakabe then says that it'd be extraordinary if Kamo were to help in the upcoming battle, confirming that Kamo is at least one of the stronger characters on our side, and someone that wouldn't be killed instantly when fighting Sukuna. I mean, I believe it. A lot of people slept on him, but they forget that he did better against the strongest curse in the series than Maki did before she obtained her recognition, but not too much on that. What's important here is that people are saying Kamo's gone for good despite Kenjaku being required to kill him to make his plans come into fruition. Of course, most of the fan base instantly wrote off Kamo because of what he said, but I can't expect too much nowadays. Yuji says that he was helped a lot by Kamo since Kamo taught him many things, whereas Choso couldn't. and if you notice, Kenjaku's descendants are all sitting together too. I'm going to assume that these three have gotten much closer over the time skip, because there's just no way that Choso wouldn't be interested in Kama as a person and who he is after hearing his name. And he sure as hell would tell Yuji that Kama holds the name of his father. They would piece it all together for sure, and the fact that all of the characters are organized in their usual teams such as Team Yuta and Hakari and Kiara does display that there's significance in how these students are placed. Kusakabe then points out that the ones who are willing to die or are okay with dying can fight, whereas everybody else will be sitting out or playing support. Say what you want about Kusakabe, but he understands that he's talking to either teenagers or people who have just been dragged into this world of sorcery with no consent. He shows peak empathy for all these characters by saying that they really don't need to enter this battle if they don't want to. It's a strong touch and it shows that he's a pretty good guy. Higuruma says that he'll be going out after Kashimo, and Yuji looks at Higuruma with a concerned face, and I say that this is more than likely due to what Higuruma said after their fight in Tokyo Colony No. 1, about turning himself in, pondering his actions and hating himself more, and couple that with Kusakabe saying that those who enter this fight must be okay with dying. It displays that Yuji is once again concerned with how Higuruma may perceive himself after the events of the Culling Game, and he doesn't want Higuruma to just throw his life away. This also goes back to his grandfather's curse of always protecting others, and it's most likely triggered here with how Yuji decides to head in a battle with Higuruma. Kashimo gets mad because he's basically saying that he's going to lose. Higuruma's saying this, and Hakari is calming him down. A lot of people clown Kashimo for losing to Sukuna the way that he did, but I think he went out strong because it was more of a fight of philosophy. It wasn't just proving that he was the strongest. He wanted to know what it meant to be the strongest. That's why Kashimo wasn't interested in fighting Ryu Ishiguri despite him being an equal. And it's also why Kashimo may have not fought Sukuna during the time skip. He wants to fight only who is crowned the strongest. He wants the answer of what it means to be strong from only the strongest himself. So I think the whole fight just made sense. It was really narratively well done. Higuruma goes on to say that if he's able to confirm the death penalty, he'll be able to fight Sukuna with the Executioner's Blade. And Kusakabe says that it's helpful but it's uncertain, is it not? And this is true. As simply put, it depends on what crime judgment will bring up against Sukuna. In a normal court, they usually throw everything at once in Sukuna, but in Higuruma's domain, the judge will raise each crime for prosecution. Basically, RNG is involved to get Sukuna the death penalty despite everything he's done, because the judge needs to pick an event and crime that both result in Sukuna getting the death penalty, and thus granting Higuruma access to the Executioner's Blade. For example, Judgment can pick Sukuna's massacre, and now we're halfway there, but now Judgment needs to randomly pick between each crime Sukuna has caused during the events of the massacre. Will Judgment choose the property damage for destroying buildings, or will he choose building invasion, or will he just choose to mass murder civilians? We have no idea. Is he essentially spinning a wheel twice, and thus it makes his strategy unpredictable and unreliable. It's then asked if Sukuna's crimes from 1,000 years ago will be included, and so far it's unknown. But Higuruma concludes his thought experiment by saying that the judge is his own Shikigami, so if that's what he believes, it should be true for the judge as well. And since Sukuna's crimes are countless at this point, it'd be even more difficult to pinpoint one out. Hakari says that if you can at least seize his techniques rather than get the blade, he'll be extremely useful. And Yuji then says, but I think there's a certain way to give the death penalty to Sukuna. And we see that this was to bring up the previous case of judgment like he did with the pachinko machine. And I would say that this is genius level battle intelligence from Yuji. The fact that he remembered this was a possibility is crazy to me. The fight begins and Mei launches a bird strike from far away, but Sukuna dodges and eradicates the crow. Mei then points out that the top three were able to kill her crows, but the fact that they still dodge indicates that it must be able to still do some damage to them. And I would say that this puts on the level of Supernova, because Kenjaku treated Supernova the same way, but with narrative implications, Bird Strike probably hits way harder. She says that she'll leave it to Higuruma and the battle begins. So I'm not really going to talk about the fight scenes too much, but Yuji and Higuruma have some seriously good coordination to end up restricting Sukuna like this. And Yuji making Sukuna shake like that has to be connected to his ability. Maybe something with manipulating the blood of those he comes into contact with, or just something like that. Predicting things like this is useless at this point though. By the way, I would say that Higuruma should be special grade level or around there at this point. He went from a noob to like grade 1 in a week. The man has had a month to train before this fight. There's no way he's not up there with the strongest by now. Anyways, Higuruma activates the domain expansion and hits both Yuji and Sukuna with it, restarting Yuji's trial for the mass murder of Shibuya, 1 billion IQ strategy here, and he points to crime on Sukuna. The chapter ends. I do want to say that I don't believe this is going to work. I just don't. This series has thrown us so many curveballs, and thinking this has a chance of working is kinda laughable. Even if they remove Sukuna's curse techniques bare minimum, he's beating their skulls in like he's Omni-Man. They have no chance. With that being said, thank you for watching all the way through, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And lastly, I do want to say that I will be uploading less and less and less, just because of, my channel's on thin ice and I don't want to risk it, so there will be less uploads for the next couple of months or so. With that being said, peace out. Have an amazing day.